That's pretty good. Women, look at there, Auburn. It don't even look real, does it? Well, they done. We just trying to say, go move now. They done. Tune of 100,000. I'd rather have that. I didn't enhance my experience. Y'all got to do it. Oh,
I'm just saying, every time I drink something right there, I start getting that fleet build up in my throat.
What's up, gentlemen?
What's up, brother? See that video? Wait, gate. Trying to throw his football. He's doing a drill. He went bad. Tom Brady just, he's damaged too. He's damaged. Huh?
He's gonna win.
I think he's going to win.
I think he's gonna win the whole thing.
I think he will too.
I know it's still piss a lot of people off, but hell,
Goodell just looks dumb as hell. If he's going to go through all that, then he just made a fool.
well, Goodell's gonna say hell no, but he's gonna take it for it.
He's going to take it to the Super Bowl.
Right, like that's the next move.
Tom Brady's going to take it.
They're gonna take it to the NFL.
Well, let's just take them on up there and get a good ruling like you got yesterday.
Right? Let everybody just do it.
That's what we are wrong. We're wrong.
I'm not saying that it's right, but that's not a government.
But the thing about it, we are so wrong. We're so wrong.
So what's the difference in the Supreme Court? Okay, the Supreme Court came out and said it. And they came here, the Constitution. Like this, them making the decision, still unelected regardless of whatever. There was gonna be either way you look at it. From a Constitution, says man and woman is what it is. Biblically, yes.
I understand that.
That's all I'm saying.
I get that. I just hate the direction I'm in. I'm just down the
We had a
tube.
pretty good week, I thought. Pretty good week. Red flags came down. Obamacare got upheld.
Wait, let me ask you a question. What is the deal with it? Do we just take and totally eliminate everything that our country has done?
Yeah, but that's not.
That's what they're doing. They're taking Confederate flags off of Confederate cemeteries and Confederate monuments and throwing them in the trash. They are moving Confederate statues, doing away with them.
What is Jefferson Davis? But I'm just saying that you have to.
That is part of our history. That is part of the history of the United States.
I understand.
That is everything.
But so
that
is
we-
slavery, and that's you see. So then
I didn't know any slaves.
But let me just say something about slavery. Slavery began. Huh? No, yeah, look, and basically what happened, and of course
I don't agree with it either.
but they brought mostly the Africans from Ghana, over to Brazil and the Caribbean. 4 times Brazil and the Caribbean. That's how the Caribbean got. That's how people got it. Because they were. I think there was about 2 million that were brought over to the United States. So slavery existed way before the Civil War started, and then after the Civil War ended, slavery continued another 50 years. But here's what I'm saying is that flag, and I don't care, I don't fly, it don't matter to me. But that flag didn't represent just slavery was part of that.
It represents not because they were opposed to abolition.
That wasn't the only thing they were opposed to. The only point that was the gist of the Civil War, I'm not arguing with that. Civil War was started over states' rights.
Oh yeah,
Versus national rights. South thought that states should have more individual rights, and the Indians thought that the federal government should have more rights. Now, we can sit here, that's still a fight today.
That's
We're
what
going
this
through it
all
right
is.
now.
Yeah, that's what that is.
You know what Governor
It's
Biden
still
is
happening.
doing right now? I mean, Obamacare said, well, this is what we're passing. Governor Biden said up there and said, the hell I am. Down here, I'm not. It's the same thing that's going on. Here's what I think is it takes one idiot to go over and shoot 9 people. One idiot that's strung out on drugs to go shoot 9 people. Now we got to look for a reason. Find something to blame.
He wanted to start. There been 3 more churches burned down. I'm saying like this is about to be a
He
big
wanted
thing.
to start a race war. And by the government knee-jerk reaction,
What he's doing.
he's getting what he
State of
wants.
South Carolina, they've been fighting about this since 2000. I mean, they in 2001, the votes for them to keep it up there was like 67. I really don't give a shit.
I don't either. It don't matter to me. It don't matter.
But you have to, because it doesn't offend you, doesn't mean it doesn't. What that represents. To somebody else.
Well, what just passed 5-4 offends me. All right, you want me? Okay, so there's me. There's my voice, because that is totally against. All right, you know when you go out and celebrate Father's Day and Mother's Day, what are we going to start celebrating before long? There's going to be kids that don't have a damn mom or don't have a
What would
dad.
they? Okay, but all they did was say get married. They say
Well, that's
about
fine.
being gay. People are gonna be gay regardless.
That's right.
That's
So
what
just
I'm
go
saying.
be yourself.
But so then they should not be able to have the same legal opportunities if they want to leave their will, their money, whatever they want to do. If they're sick in the hospital and they don't have nobody, can
I
help them,
guess.
that's those are like they're fighting for those rights, not necessarily the same. But the only reason they want to get married is from a legal standpoint. It has shit to do with marriage or anything like that. It just gives you the
Well,
right.
I could be married, but not make a will. My stuff comes over there in my will. I could leave it to you.
Yeah, but not. No, you can't transfer that because you're not married. They couldn't leave it to your spouse. Is what I'm saying. If you're in the
There's
hospital,
no spouse exists.
there's no spouse. So if you're in the hospital and something happens and they need to call on what they do for help, if you're not married, then they can't make a determination once it's screwed. But I mean, that's a minute point. I don't really give a shit. It was already 25 states across the country. So just kill it again. I don't feel it.
Nothing to appeal, man.
No, they'll.
Nothing to appeal.
I think that there's no,
They've got 25 days, but nobody ever appeals that 25 days.
Well, here's another point. Look, again, I don't care who go around. Be with whoever they have to be with. I don't like decorating down White House like it's a damn
Yeah.
rainbow.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I don't. There's extremes to it. I just see those. I'm really kind of concerned but on social issues.
It ain't right because Scott.
Oh, you can do that. You can do that, but not on these are. But what I mean, if it's on state ground or state capital, or it's some monument that represents somebody who's
whole purpose was to prevent slaves from being free, then
Yeah, they took the Confederate flag off the top of the state capitol.
1988.
1988. In Montgomery, they took the flag off. I didn't have a problem with that. I have a problem with the Confederate memorials around the state that they are taking the flags down. They are removing statues of the Confederate. So
Because of one idiot.
Because of one idiot.
That just sparked it, though.
Why all of a sudden in 2015 we've gone 25 years, ain't nobody said a word
Do you
about
think
it?
people have not been saying stuff? The Confederate flag
Let me
issue
ask you a
has been
question. When that guy went and Sandy Hook and killed all those kids up there, why did he do that? All right, this guy goes, sits down in a black church for an hour. All right, it doesn't make a shit what kind of damn flag he had his damn picture from 2 years ago. It doesn't matter. Guns don't kill people. The idiots that have the
But being
guns
able to get a gun as easily as you are able to get one, that is a problem. I think you should be able to bear arms all day. I'm with that. However, have somebody like that who's mentally unstable, and they're able to get a gun that easily, then that causes.
Here's the deal. A drug deal, I don't do drugs, but drugs don't. Bad people gonna get it easy. The only thing you do when you restrict guns is protect the people that are gonna obey the law. That's the only thing you do. Because a criminal's gonna get it.
No, I mean, I'm just saying there can't be, you gotta have some.
Yeah, there's a common ground of complete reform. Of complete reform on everything.
You don't got a year left, so y'all can elect somebody. He didn't, I mean.
Yeah, and then we're gonna get something even worse in there.
Time. Countdown with Brett Pritchard, Randy Lee, and Luke Robinson. Auburn, Alabama, around the SEC and around the nation. This
it was just one unlock
to be a part of the program,
that I know of.
Call 256-234-6221. Now, let's join Brett, Randy, and Luke for the Saturday Sports Countdown.
Good Saturday morning out there to everybody, and welcome into the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill. Brett Pritchard and Scott Hardy will be here with you for 2 hours today. We'll be here with you till noon. Give us a call, 256-234-6221. Just a little note back there in the studio. We're getting a tad bit of an echo there, so I think we still might be in queue. So if you'll help us out back there in the studio, that would be great, because it is so difficult, Scott, to talk when you hear an echo in your ear. But anyway, we'll try to fight through it and move forward. We're glad everybody that's tuned us in out there today, and it's going to be about a 70% chance of rain out there. So
not a complete wash. Don't cancel all your outdoor plans today. You can just kind of keep your eye on that weather app, whatever weather app you choose to have on your smartphone. Just know that you can be safe. I'll just have to open up the show and say, look, if you are on that lake and you're not a member of Towboat US, you're missing out, and you're really putting yourself at a disadvantage because once you find out that you got everything under control and nothing's ever going to happen to you, it's when it happens. So I had my family out there Wednesday on the pontoon boat, and there was a storm coming, and so we just start easing back to the River North Marina, and my impeller went out, the thing that cools your engine. And so there's a computer chip in there, wouldn't let me crank the motor back up. So I'm floating out there in the middle of the lake, Scott. Here comes a huge storm. So able to pick the phone up, call Jackson Dozier at U.S. Towboat. He came out, towed us back to River North Marina before the storm got really bad. If you don't have that, it's going to cost you an arm and a leg to call somebody to come get you. And I'll just throw it out there. The membership is very inexpensive. It covers you from 1 year to the next, and you'll renew it every year. But it's such a insurance policy to know that you have that, and you can call somebody, because you can get in a tide on the lake before you know it, and you can be a veteran boat person or watercraft person, and you just don't realize and you can check everything 2 or 3 times and be sure of everything, and something can still happen to you. So I encourage you to get in touch with Jackson Dozier at Towboat US.
Yeah, and I've been a benefactor of their services a couple of times.
I figured you
my friends and I have had to use them. I'll just say that we've been in some fights before where just some crazy things have happened. So definitely a service that is valuable to all boaters.
Let me send one more message back there to the studio. If you could take us out of queue, please. Or we'll go ahead and take a break, and we'll try to figure that out. I'll tell you what, let's do that. Let's go ahead and take our first break here on the Saturday Sports Countdown, try to get these technical difficulties knocked out, and we'll be back with you. Stay tuned. More of the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR's right after this.
Lunch doesn't have to be the same old fast food or burgers in your busy day. Big P Barbecue now has the best lunch special around with an expanded lunch special.
What we got going on back there, guys?
18 veggies to choose from. Meat and 2 plates starting at only $4.99. Add a veggie for a meat and 3 for only $1 more. Not a meat lover? Get a vegetable.
Hey, what's going on?
$99.
Who we got back there?
Homemade banana pudding for only $1.99. Big B Barbecue, the best lunch menu in town, Monday through Friday from 10 to 2. We cook the best betters since 1978. Highway 22 West in Alexander City.
For 115 years, Alliant Bank has built a strong foundation of outstanding customer service.
Talk to me, man.
U.S. AmeriBank
what we got going on?
That foundation with craft banking. U.S. AmeriBank's mission is to create handcrafted solutions that perfectly suit your needs and goals. With these financial strengths and convenient banking tools of U.S. AmeriBank, your hometown bank is now even stronger. Alliant is now U.S. AmeriBank, and we're built on values and forging into the future. Visit usameribank.com or any branch for craft banking solutions.
Member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Everyone knows that when you shop at Holly's Home Furnishings, you get the best name brand furniture and unbelievable savings. They've got everything your heart desires when it comes to home furnishings by Broyhill, Simmons, Sealy, Lane, and many more. And if they don't, they can get it. So remember, when you're looking for great service and the best quality at awesome prices, it's always Holly's Home Furnishings. That's Holly's Home Furnishings at 1660 Highway 22 West in Alexander City, or visit them online at hollyshomefurnishings.com.
Don't let pests take your house or business over. Wave the red flag. Red Flag Pest, owned and operated by Scott Davis on Highway 280 in Jackson Gap, is licensed, insured, and bonded.
I just
serves
like
the
to have
Lake
the
Martin
conversation.
area, specializing in lake homes, residential property, and industrial property. Call for a free inspection today.
Send all of them out there and see if they can fight for us. And see where we get.
At redflagpestcontrol.com.
Be a couple out there.
Boats.
Hey, it's not an additional echo.
Fox Island has over 200 boats
to
choose from. 1-800
Everything's coming over right now. Like none of the things back here are working. I'm trying to figure it out.
Oh, nothing there is working. Oh, that's great.
1-800
I mean, I'll try to get you back on there. Hold up.
For qualified buyers. Fox Island. 1-800.
You got 10 seconds.
It's going to be hard to do this show with an echo. I'm just telling you.
Standing on the bank this summer. Get your boat at Fox Island.
He said he can't get y'all on.
I'm ready.
Can y'all work on it? Like, I'll work on it back here and y'all keep going.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown, Spits Countdown, whatever you want to call it. Brett Pritchard, Scott Hardy here with you till noon, and I guess we're going to fight. We're going to fight through this. And it's going to be real tough. That's all I can tell you. I don't know. I don't know where to go with it. And as one of those things that we'll just have to deal with. I guess you have to, like an athlete, you have to play through pain. You don't have to. It's not always going to be a cupcake for you. So that's what we're going to do today. But anyway, we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear your echo out there. 256-234-6221 to be part of the program. Scott, a ton going on in the world of sports. Andy and I on Sports Call yesterday really didn't talk much about the NBA draft. We'll save that for a little bit later on in the program. If you're looking at football season, can you believe from today, 9 Saturdays from kickoff college football season?
And I can't wait. Now you're starting to get all of your pundits letting everybody know their thoughts on divisional races and conference races and ultimately the national championship scene. But 9 weeks away, and there's been a lot of hype for Auburn fans around here, Alabama as well, but for Auburn fans in particular, there's been so much national hype with Muschamp being there, coming in, hopefully restructuring the defense, and then Jeremy Johnson taking over the reins from the quarterback position. And then around the country as well, you have different quarterback races. Ohio State seems to be poised for another national championship run. They just need to figure out who's going to hand the ball off to Ezekiel Elliott. So it's just it's getting exciting that time of year where everybody can voice their opinion on what's going on.
You got the new odds that have come out, the fresh odds for the 2015 college football season. We'll hit on some of those. The Iron Bowl odds are out already. Auburn and Louisville, Alabama, Wisconsin odds are out already. Those were released yesterday by Golden Book, I believe. I can't remember. Golden Nugget and Sports Book is what it was. And 11.5-point favorite for the Auburn Tigers over Louisville. I'll go back and pull up Wisconsin. I can't remember, Scott, if it was exactly 10. It may have been 11 for Alabama over Wisconsin. I'll pull that back up and look at it and let everyone know out there. Notre Dame 7.5 over Texas. Texas A&M 3 over Arizona State. Ohio State 16 over Virginia Tech. Really, to be honest with you, I thought that was kind of low. But they did lose to Virginia Tech. Somehow Scott Loeffler managed enough offense to beat Ohio State last year. I'll never understand that. But Ohio State 14-point favorites in at least every game coming out in the initial odds.
So is that more of an indication of how well they think they're going to do, or just how down the Big Ten is? Probably a little bit of both. But I mean, that is a good point spread. I don't see anybody outside of maybe a Michigan State, possibly Wisconsin, and then obviously Michigan at the end of the season, but they can really stay with them. I think this could be a cruise to the Final Four.
Let's pull those up. Wisconsin, it is 10, isn't it? Alabama over Wisconsin.
Yes, minus 10 for Alabama.
Go ahead and run down some of the other
opening weekend. You have Wisconsin versus Alabama, 10-point favorite for Alabama. Auburn versus Louisville in Atlanta, Georgia. Seems to be a good place for Auburn to start this season here of late. 11.5-point favorite for them. Texas A&M versus Arizona State. And this one seems a little tricky for me. I know Arizona State has a pretty good football team, but -3 for Texas A&M. And the big game of the day, I guess, a lot of people will be tuning in for is that Texas at Notre Dame game. Notre Dame, a -7.5-point favorite. And then you roll it down a little bit. BYU at Nebraska -16, and Virginia at UCLA -17.
You know, it's imperative, obviously, to get off to a good start. Auburn and Louisville over in Atlanta. You got Wisconsin, Alabama, and Texas. You know, you lose early. I know the what we talk about. You lose early, and it doesn't affect you as much. But it's your high-profile games, out-of-conference games. You got to win them. And for the expectations for Auburn, expectations for Alabama, you got to win these ball games to set yourself up for moving forward. You definitely don't want to start off the season with a loss.
Yeah, and again, if you're a team like Auburn with such high expectations, this Louisville game isn't going to be a pushover. I know that Petrino and his staff will come in ready to fight, and obviously his history with Auburn will be one that excites a lot of the fans. But this could be a really good matchup and a good test for Auburn as well from the defensive side, because you know that offensively Louisville is going to put together a good football team.
Yeah, Bobby Petrino's got an outstanding history of being an offensive mind. He spent time at Auburn, Coach Jason Campbell, and that is a situation where they've unveiled new uniforms. They're going to be fired up with opportunity. They know Auburn is a trendy pick in 2015 to play for the national championship. So Louisville would love nothing more than to come into Atlanta already down majorly in the odds side at 11.5 starting out. And, they know that. They know that was released, and they're double-digit underdogs. I don't think that's where the point spread will stay, Scott. I think when you move closer to kickoff time, I think it'll be around 8 or so. But I think that's what Las Vegas is trying to do, get people to bet early, get people to bet on Louisville, and the point line will go down. The more money that goes on Louisville's side, you'll see. That Alabama-Wisconsin game, we saw what Wisconsin has and what we played, when we played against them last year in the bowl game. They're a formidable opponent. Now, whether they have enough, we saw them kind of wither away against LSU early in the season. They got off to a big start, and then LSU came back and took control of the game. Didn't have much in the second half. I do like Alabama in that ball game, although Alabama's got to come up with some answers at quarterback.
Yeah, and again, I think you'll know about Alabama pretty quickly during this game. Now, granted, last year's team versus West Virginia, they kind of started out slow as well and ultimately made it to the Final Four, and you kind of saw them progress and got better, especially behind the play of Blake Sims and Amari Cooper. But this season is going to be a lot of pressure on that quarterback position defensively. They have a lot of returning guys and some guys that are stepping in that they're expecting to have full potential to be great players like a Rashaan Evans. So we'll see what happens there. But again, offensively, who is going to take over and run the reins there for Lane Kiffin?
Yeah, but don't we go through this all the time with Alabama? I mean, I know A.J. McCarron was pretty much a staple. Greg McElroy was too, but Alabama hasn't had quarterbacks that just slap blow you away. And, they've entered seasons more than one time with Nick Saban with question marks. The quarterback seems to always work out for him. Seems to always find a guy, whether it's Barnett that's going to step in or it's Bateman, or whether Jacob Coker decides he's going to take control. I don't think it's going to be Jacob. I think they'll have to – I don't – first of all, let me say you ain't got to do anything, but I think he'll emerge as the starter. I don't think he finished. May not finish the first game. Definitely don't think he's going to finish the year.
No, I think that Barnett probably is the option. Coop Bateman's been around a while as a name most Alabama fans know, but I don't think it really matters as much as you can see last season with Blake Sims, somebody who had not started before and really didn't have that quarterback pedigree, but under Lane Kiffin's offense, he puts you in positions to succeed, and with the skill position players that Alabama has, they should be able to spread the ball around a little bit, but again, Henry and his ability to run the football, I think, will be the key component for the offensive strategy.
256-234-6221 to be part of the program here. Saturday Sports Countdown. We'd love to hear from you. Apologize for a little bit of an echo out there. We're trying to work on getting that corrected out there. If you'll just bear with us today. It's a gorgeous Saturday right now. There is a chance of rain later on in the day. Don't cancel your outdoor plans. Just keep a watch on that weather out there. We'll go ahead and take another break here on the Lake Martin Sports Roundup Show. Not the Lake Martin Sports Roundup Show, Saturday Sports Countdown. Boy, we have just thrown all of them in here so far today. I don't know if I even remember my name at this point. Stay tuned for the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR's right after this. Guys, we're going to have to get something done about this. Going to have to reboot or something. When we get the echo, it's usually because we're in queue, and I don't know what has to be done back there because I obviously don't run the board. But we'll be adding a full chip store and a pontoon and jet ski rental fleet.
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, I got you now. Yeah, what's up?
All right, you can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Let's I don't know what's causing this echo. Nothing's in audition. There's one button I'm going to try, and then we'll see if that fixes it. Okay, you're coming back in about 15 seconds to bumper.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
Thanks, JJ.
Come back to you in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill. Echo is eliminated. We want to thank all of you back there in the studio for working hard to get that done, because I'm going to tell you, I know nobody enjoyed that first 15 minutes out there listening to that. Scott, it's hard to concentrate. You know, you think about it, and we've been in all types of situations before, and I've got some funny stories I could tell about broadcast early years. But we really appreciate you guys back there for working that out. 256-234-6221 to be part of the program here, just getting started. And we were talking about the odds that came out in college football, 9 Saturdays away, Scott. It's just hard to believe that they were that close. And, you know, I saw where all of our crew got our credentials approved for SEC Media Days. When that happens, you know that college football is right around the corner, and the SEC will go into this season with a new commissioner. You know, Mike Slive, I thought, did an outstanding job in his tenure as the SEC commissioner, and you know, due to health reasons and you know, timing on his part, it was time to step down and move on.
Big shoes to fill there. I mean, you got to think about
Greg Sankey.
Yeah, Sankey. I mean, granted, he's been involved with the SEC for a while. He's been the number 2 guy, so it's not like he's not familiar. But with the 7-in-a-row streak for the SEC network, and making the Final Four, I mean, this is just so much that positive this is going for the SEC. Big shoes to fill in, but a pretty easy car to keep driving.
It is, with the amount of money that's being generated and all the you know, just the national attention on the SEC. It will be. That's a good way to put it, Scott. It's an easy car to drive. You just don't run it off the road. You know, don't do something drastic. If it's not broke, don't fix it. So that's what Sankey will have in charge, but he'll be in charge of a multi-billion-dollar organization in the Southeastern Conference. And you know, media days will be mid-July, and then really after that, they'll really start getting after it as far as vamping up fall camp, and we'll be a month out at that point from kickoff. We'll begin breaking all the SEC teams down here in the next few weeks. We'll take probably at least one, probably 2 per Saturday, Scott, and start talking about these teams. Saturday Down South came up with an interesting list that we talked about on Sports Call yesterday that we'll run down. I won't go through the entire list like we did yesterday, but just kind of hit some highlights on that a little bit later on. But Saturday Down South comes up with some really, really interesting stuff to talk about, but they ranked or didn't rank. They came up with a system that ranked the SEC programs all time, top to bottom. And Mississippi State is dead last there at one conference championship, no national championship. So I want to talk about the Bulldogs for just a second. Moving in to this season, I think they missed their golden opportunity last year, Scott. They had it, a chance to really take control, and they fizzled coming down the stretch. You know, I think all of us picked that Mississippi State would fold the 10 over in Tuscaloosa, and they did. They came back and tried to make it close, but never really were in that game. Couldn't get anything going offensively. And, of course, they got killed in the Orange Bowl last year at the end of the season. Didn't end the way they wanted it to. They lost a ton on that football team. Of course, they have Dak Prescott that's coming back, but what does he have around him outside of De'Runnya Wilson that leads you to believe that Mississippi State can challenge LSU, Auburn, and Alabama in the Western Division?
And you hit the point exactly. I mean, the thing with Mississippi State, especially last season, the Cinderella story felt so good, and you thought they had a chance, but eventually you knew the clock would have to strike 12, and especially after they beat Auburn, you're like, oh, man, there's no way. And then they go back, and then, as you said, they lose to Alabama. But with that team they had last year with Dak Prescott and his Heisman candidacy there, I mean, that was their best opportunity. So again, I know a lot of people think that this year could be a return visit possibly to the 9-10 win mark, but I see them being maybe a 7-5 team this season.
Well, I mean, you look around, you may have a great football team, but where are your wins coming from? I mean, everybody can't win 10 games. I mean, that's just the way it is. So Mississippi State, you know, all you Mississippi State Bulldog fans out there that are football fans, you know, we're just sitting here laying it on the table for you. One conference championship, no national championships, and you know, taking advantage of the opportunity. Now you do have one up on Ole Miss. You have made it to the conference championship game back in 1998 in Tennessee. It was a close game. Tennessee ended up winning that ball game, but Mississippi State, Ole Miss still has not been to the SEC championship game. But I was kind of shocked in the separation of where Mississippi State and Ole Miss are, and it's because of what happened several years ago with Ole Miss. But South Carolina's at 13, Kentucky at 12, Vanderbilt 11. Did you know they had 14 SEC championships in Vanderbilt? Yeah, in football. Yeah, it's hard to believe, isn't it?
That's very shocking.
But no national titles. But Vanderbilt, back in the day, was a formidable opponent. A lot of people struggled with them, but 14 conference titles for the Commodores. Missouri, an incomer for SEC, already been to the SEC championship game twice. Have really taken advantage of Georgia's blunders.
Have they been better than A&M in their? I mean, obviously, I guess because they didn't make it, but from a program standpoint, who's been more successful?
Well, I mean, I guess you'd have to look at Missouri. I mean, Texas A&M had a stellar year with Johnny Manziel, but you know, he came back the second year and didn't have as good a year. You know, Auburn was able to go to Kyle Field and get a win over there, and just wasn't as good as the year before. And Texas A&M's won some big ball games, but they haven't made it to the now. Granted, their road's tougher. Their road's got a lot more bumps in it than Missouri. Missouri had to have Georgia do what they're good at doing, and that's fall on their face. And 2 years in a row, and they did it. You know, Georgia, all they had to do is go beat Florida. Florida was terrible this year, and they go down there and get blown away in that ball game down in Jacksonville, and opens the door right back up for Missouri. Let's go to the phone lines. Go ahead, caller. You're on the Saturday Sports Countdown. Caller, you with us?
I don't know. I can hear you. Hold on. Let me get him back.
And we'll try that again. So just let us know if we get the phone call back online. We'll try to take that again. But you look at Missouri. I mean, they've been to 2 conference titles already. Now, granted, they've been killed in both of them. But I don't think anybody would have thought Missouri would have made it there before Texas A&M.
No, and I completely agree with that. And it's kind of show and tell time for Texas A&M and Kevin Sumlin, because the hype is there. They have defensive coordinator in there with Chavis, and it seems to be the same hype that Auburn has from the defensive side. But Kevin Sumlin got the big contract, and he's getting the big recruits, but you can't continue to go 7-5 and stay in the SEC.
Ole Miss comes in at 9, 6 conference titles, 3 national championships. Now, granted, it's prefaced in their list that these are claimed national championships for everybody. So, you know, there's some that are recognized. There's some that could claim more and that don't, and vice versa. So, but that's just what it is. Arkansas is at number 8. Let's try to go back to the phone lines again and take this call. Caller, go ahead.
Hey guys, it's Luke. How's it going?
Luke, what's going on, brother?
A couple of things. First of all, you mentioned Vanderbilt, the 14 championships. Those aren't SEC championships they have. I believe there's some from what other conference they were in, the Southern Poverty Law Conference or whatever they were in before the SEC.
No, they are not. They're not SEC championships, no.
Yeah, there's something else, because they actually have Alabama credited with 28, and Alabama doesn't have 28 SEC titles. I believe they've got either 23 or 24. And they've got some others from some other conference, you know, back in the 20s or maybe even before that, and that I don't even remember. But so that explains that. It's not necessarily that Vandy has 14 SEC championships, which kind of explains things a little bit more. But I'll tell you, yesterday I was riding down the road just as I'm doing today, as I'm always doing, and I was listening to one of the other shows, and I didn't know this, but maybe you guys did, that apparently in January, the rule will be dissolved that you have to have 12 teams in 2 divisions to have a playoff, a championship in your conference. And because if you remember, that rule came about a long time ago during the Roy Kramer days, and that rule had come up maybe in the 80s for some other smaller conference team, but that had requested, hey, can we do this? And that was the impetus for the SEC having a championship, because Roy Kramer found this loophole or found this caveat in the rules that says, okay, if you have 12 teams and you have 2 divisions, you can have a championship. And he thought it would be a good idea. And of course, it's worked out fabulously, and it's been great for a lot of conferences now. But Braden Gall on the college sports station on Sirius kept mentioning over and over again that in January, that rule will go away, that you don't have to have divisions, you don't have to have 12 teams. So you could do the Big 12 could have a championship game with only 10 teams, which would help things a lot, probably help them tremendously. The SEC could do away with divisions, and you could go back to, say, 2011, if there were no divisions, Alabama and LSU would have played again in Atlanta, and then that would have done away with the rematch in the Sugar Bowl for the national championship. But the flip side of that is, conversely, I don't know how the tiebreakers would work, but after the Kick Six game, you could have theoretically had Alabama and Auburn play the very next week again in Atlanta. And I don't know if that's fair to Missouri. I don't know if that's fair to Alabama and Auburn. I don't know. But it's just interesting because I'm sort of used to divisions now, and I like them. But I certainly could see the argument for not having them at all, especially right now in this time where the West is so much better than the East. And it's not really fair that Alabama, Auburn, and LSU, and Texas A&M, and Ole Miss have to play each other in this round robin. And then this year, when Arkansas is so much more improved, last year Mississippi State. I mean, there were 3 teams in the first ever playoff projection last year.
That's right.
SEC West team.
Yeah.
So, and you look at the East. I mean, Georgia's going to get to play Kentucky and Vandy and a down South Carolina program right now. It doesn't necessarily make it apples to apples, but get your thoughts on that.
Well, I think that proves a point. You know, I've always been for, you know, if I thought it was unfair a little bit to have a conference championship game when other conferences haven't had to have one, and they could just, you know, that's one less game you've got to play, and you know you can catapult your conference champion on into whatever system it is, whether it be the playoff system now. But most conferences have come around now and have a playoff game or have a championship game, which I think that just makes everything even, because if you got some conferences that don't have a championship game and some that do, then you're not having a fair shake at it. But that goes back to my point with Georgia, Luke, and we've made this point over and over and over, and I hate to beat them down because Auburn has definitely been beat down more than they've beat them over the past 12 to 14 years. But Georgia seems to always find a way to shoot themselves in the foot. I mean, you want to talk about a division they should have won hands down the last 3 to 5 years, and maybe have a streak running of 5 years in a row, and they let Missouri get in there twice and win it, and it's been considerably weaker than the Western Division. I just think Georgia has really, really missed some good opportunities for some SEC championships.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt about it. I mean, Mark Richt, while he's done pretty well, has missed his opportunities. I don't think there's any doubt. But the thing about a championship game, and I see your point, because there have been a lot of times where I remember Auburn in 2010, they play a South Carolina team that had 3 losses. You know, there's not much for Auburn to play for necessarily. They had already gone undefeated, so theoretically they should have already been the champion. And South Carolina could have ruined that party. They didn't, but they could have. I know it's been that way on several other times. And it's the only time that I can ever remember the SEC championship game hurting a national championship contender is when LSU beat Tennessee in maybe 2004 or 2 or somewhere in that neighborhood. And not 2004, obviously. I think Auburn won it then, but maybe 2002. And that's the only time I can remember that the SEC championship game came back to bite the conference, even though it could have happened in 1992, if you remember the first one ever.
That's right.
But I'm pro championship games just because I think they are fun. They They generate a ton of money and exposure for the conference, and for the most part, they don't come back to haunt you. But and I think the Big 12, they sure wish they had a championship game last year, because if they had one, and whoever would have won it, TCU or Baylor, they would have been in the playoff, and Ohio State would have been left out. I have no doubt in my mind about it.
No, I totally agree, and I think that's why, again, it goes back in that particular case to hurt the Big 12, whereas in the past, in some other instances, before the Big 10 had a championship game, it helped them a little bit in the end, because they didn't have to play that extra game. And then you got the SEC teams, Alabama and Auburn down here, just to name those two because they're here in the state, that have to go play another game, have to get up another week, and have a chance to really blow a really good season by playing a team usually that's less formidable and doesn't have anything to play for. So it's a good argument, but I'm with you, Luke. I'm used to the divisions now. Let's just keep it the way it is, in my opinion.
Well, they did away with divisions in basketball.
We don't really need divisions in basketball.
But I don't like it. I mean, I don't like conference tournaments in basketball. So if I think if you got rid of conference tournaments in basketball, it would be more helpful. But I would keep the divisions in basketball. I think conference tournaments are a total waste of time for the most part. It just gives teams that don't deserve a chance at a national championship a chance to go to the dance, and I don't agree with it. I would go back to divisions in basketball because I enjoy the rivalry, playing Mississippi State twice and Auburn twice and everything. And the way they have it set up now, you don't get to do that, and it still is weighted. Somebody's got to play Kentucky twice.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's a good topic, but it's going to be interesting to see how, because the other thing he brought up, you could theoretically go to 16 teams and have 4 divisions of 4 teams like the NFL, and then have your own mini playoff within the conference.
Yeah, and I've got one thing I want to throw at you. I want to get your take on it real quick, then I'll get Scott's on the other side of the break. Basketball. I look back at Kentucky, and look, I'm not a sympathizer for Kentucky. Lord knows they've had plenty of their share of national titles in basketball and success. But do you think, I've been watching the Women's College World Series, the Men's College World Series. You look at, I know football, you get the playoffs and all. With basketball, in the NBA Finals and everything else, you have a series. Would you be opposed to having a best out of 3 series, shortening the tournament, and having the 2 teams that make it have a best out of 3? Because look, on any given day, it's been proven that you can get in a game, especially in basketball, and you can lose with baseball as well. What if Vanderbilt and Virginia only played 1 game? Well, Vanderbilt would be your national champion right now. Virginia came back and won 2 in a row and won it. It's more of a compilation of an entire season. I think that you play so many games to have it rest on 1 game. I just think it's unfair to a team that put something together like Kentucky, because I don't think they would have lost a series, but they didn't, it's kind of a moot issue because they didn't even make it to the national title game. They lost in the semifinal. But I'm just saying, what's your thoughts on that? Would you like to see a best out of 3 series for college basketball at the end of the tournament?
I would be more for, let's just get the 16 best teams in the country in and do series for everybody. That way you'd have 8 games that all have, in the first round, that all have best of 3 series maybe. And you can even do it home and home. I mean, forget neutral sites. I don't care about neutral sites anymore. And then when you get to the championship series, when you get to the final 2 teams, if you want to do a best of 3 in, Council Bluffs, Iowa, in the middle of America, then that's fine with me too, instead of doing a home and home in that situation. But I think the NBA setup is much better than the one-and-done college basketball setup. While the college basketball setup is the most dramatic thing in sports, I believe that it's not the best way to determine a championship. I also believe that. So I could certainly buy something like that or some hybrid thereof. Anything is better than having the 68 or just a random compilation of 68 teams in the tournament. It's not that people always say that we get the 68 best teams. No, you don't. You get teams with losing records in there all the time. You get teams with 500 records. You get teams that just got hot in the conference championship at the last second and really got to be in the tournament. And I don't agree with having those teams in there. I would rather have the best 16 or maybe the best 24, 32 teams in there. It's complete overkill.
Well, I like all the points, and I definitely say that college basketball is wonderful to watch. and it can be even better. I think we could tweak it in postseason and make it even more interesting and draw more attention to it. Luke, we appreciate it. Be safe out there.
All right, guys, have a good one.
Thanks so much. 256-234-6221. Stay tuned. More of the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR's right after this. Are we out? Hello? Are we down? Welcome back, everyone, to the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill. Brett Pritchard and Scott Hardy here with you for another hour and 20 minutes. We'd love to hear from you, 256-234-6221. Scott, your take on that conversation we just had with Luke. Would you like to see maybe a little three-game playoff, three-game series at the end of the tournament? Because I just think that, I look at Vanderbilt. And I hate it for the SEC that it wasn't a one-game deal, but you play that many baseball games, it doesn't need to be a one and done. It doesn't need to be I can run one guy out there and and win a game 5-0. And, you know, it gave Virginia an opportunity to come back, tie the series, and then it came down to a winner take all. I just think that's a better, you know, picture overall of a better painting of the whole season. It gives you, because I mean, putting everything on one game, and the same for basketball. I mean, Kentucky came out and they had a few struggles early in that game and started trying to come back, but couldn't get it reeled in. But they were clearly the best team in college basketball last year. I mean, I know Duke, they deserved it. They played hard and they won, and they you know, they controlled that game against Wisconsin. But, you know, on the flip side for Wisconsin, I mean, how do you get right back up after you just beat a team that won 30 straight games in a row, and you were the team that kind of felt like their national championship game? I just think you need to bring it down and have a series. What's your thoughts on that?
I think the Final Four should be a best of 3. Once you reach that point, because that supposedly those are going to be your 4 best teams. And for the most part, we've seen that happen over the last decade or so, especially since I've been watching basketball and really getting into it. But I think the Final Four should be a best of 3, and then moving. And that way you at least get more of a legitimacy of who is actually the champion, because Kentucky could have easily come back and won 2 out of 3.
Well, they probably would have.
And then
they probably would have.
You see what I'm saying? So that's what I'm saying. It's so hard, especially in a one-game playoff. But I guess that's what makes March Madness is as polarizing as it can be, is because you only have one opportunity.
Is that what you want, though? Is that your goal, to have something that that's polarizing and enjoyable? Or are you trying to get the number? Are you trying to find the true champion?
Well, if you're the NCAA, you're probably trying to get the polarizing aspect of it. But
but you don't think adding a bet, like you just said, a best of 3 when you get the Final Four, you don't think that draws more attention now that you know that you possibly watched Kentucky and Wisconsin play 3 times? You don't think that I wouldn't have been in front of the 2? You don't think that's going to make more money?
True. I mean, I don't know that the NCAA is making moves, especially on the basketball side, to try to enhance the game and make it more enjoyable. They move the shot clock down and that type of thing. But again, from the scheduling aspect of it, and usually I've gotten to where I've seen more on Luke's side on the NCAA tournament about just taking so many teams, but then you see a team that was maybe a 10th seed or 11th seed, and then they end up making a Sweet 16 or Elite 8. And once you get to the Sweet 16, at that point, there's no telling what you could do. So I do like the aspect of giving those teams an opportunity, but there's always somebody else that could have been in there and they got left out, and you don't know what they would have done with that opportunity as well, similar to with Ohio State and the Big 12 situation, which is why that is the only reason that's happening, is the Big 12 is pushing that to ensure themselves that if they get in that situation again, they don't get beat out by a team like Ohio State.
I mean, we've talked about the NIT tournament before. I mean, the NIT, I mean, you're really not getting the 68 best teams. I agree with Luke. I mean, because there's teams, probably the 10 or 12 at the top of the NIT deserve to be in the NCAA tournament over 10 or 12 that make it in because they won their conference tournament. I don't think winning the conference tournament gives you any credence at all. I mean, because we've seen it happen in the past. Now, I know it doesn't happen often, but we've seen in the past where a team with a losing record gets hot in a tournament and they win, they go to the NCAA tournament, and you knock somebody out that had a 24-12 record, okay, and they were a better team, and they would beat that team probably 9 out of 10 times, but they have to go to the NIT and let this other team with a 500 or losing record go to the NCAA tournament and probably get put out in the first round. I mean, that doesn't tell me that's not the 68 best team. So the NCAA needs to quit saying that. They need to start saying, they need to come up with another term or another more, you know, some kind of other statement to describe the NCAA tournament, because it's not the 68 best teams in the country.
Well, speaking of college basketball, there's a story that came out, and Pat Forty did a nice story on Calipari about, you know, they wanted to get 8 people drafted. That was their goal, and get 8 of their players drafted for this draft. And they ended up getting 6. One of the players got injured, and that hurt him. And then Aaron Harrison didn't get selected as well. But they had 6 guys go and 4 in the first round. So, I mean, Kentucky is doing tremendous things. But Calipari's comments kind of were leaning toward the point of he thought that the draft was a little more important than actually winning the championship. And obviously, I know he doesn't mean that, but for his program and for what he's trying to do, if those one and done, if that's the system that that is in place for college basketball, then you want to try to make that as enjoyable for your players to come in as possible. So when you have recruits coming in, they see that you just put 6 guys in the NBA. I don't think kids care as much about winning a championship as they do about getting to the NBA.
Now, I think you're right. And saying even more about that, it will lead this into the next segment. in January, they'll vote on whether college underclassmen will now have the opportunity to return to school even after they declare for the NBA draft. It was
favor of that. Yes.
Well, what you do is you put a lot more stress on these coaches. I mean, these coaches are out recruiting, trying to figure out, and Scott, if I'm coaching you and you declare for the NBA draft, I'm moving on. I've got to fill your slot. You were a good player for me, but you've already made your decision. Now all of a sudden you got to come back. You're going to come back. Oh, I'm going to come back for one more year now.
Oh.
It just really makes things really difficult, I think, on the coaches and other recruits. Now, what about this recruit that thought he was coming in? Now he's got to get a phone call back and say, well, look, man, I don't have room for you. I don't know if I can make it. So let's go to the phone lines. Caller, go ahead. You're on the Saturday Sports Countdown.
Hey, guys.
What's up, man?
How you doing?
I'm good. I figured. I had a feeling, if you were listening, that you would call in, and I'm glad you did, Jeff. I'd love to hear your take on all this.
Well, I think I've listened all morning this morning. That's what separates basketball from the other sports.
The tournament.
The tournament, no question.
Well, let me ask you this. I brought this up. I think, I love the NCAA tournament. It is. I totally agree. And I think all of us love the NCAA tournament. We all have different versions of what we'd like to see. I would like to see in the Final Four a best of three. I just think that it gives, you've played so many games and you have teams out there, because I don't think there's any question in anybody's mind, and somebody might disagree with me, that Kentucky was the best team in basketball last year. And I think it over a series, they would have proven that. I think that, they made a remarkable run. It's almost impossible to do what they did this year. And for them to get there and lose because they had one bad game, you're going to have a bad game eventually. It's hard to make that run.
Brett, I don't disagree with that, but when a team has already played 30 some odd games and now you get down to the finals and you're telling them that you're going to play a best of three, and that's a lot of ball games for a college kid. I know they do it in the NBA. I'm not a big fan of the NBA, so therefore, I would be against having a series in the Final Four, like Scott said. It's no different than you getting in the championship of the SEC football. It's a one-game deal. You have a bad day, it's going to cost you.
Yeah, that's a good point. I definitely see both sides of it, and look, I think the NCAA's got it hammered down. I don't know if they'll ever change the way the structure is, and I didn't think we'd ever see a playoff in college football either, but we see one now, and probably we'll see it expanded in a few years to at least 8 teams. But Jeff, before we let you off the line, I just brought up this new rule that's going to be voted on in January about college underclassmen. Once they declare for the draft, if they decide they want to come back, they can. What's your thoughts on that?
I think that's one of the best things that's been done in a long time. And let me say why I feel that way. Because there's a lot of kids that leave to go to the draft that are not ready to play in the NBA. And if you can go and be evaluated and then have the opportunity to come back to college because your evaluation was not that good, then that's going to help college basketball.
I think you're exactly right. I think college basketball needed that. I think, yes, you give somebody the opportunity to go test the waters. If they're not ready to go, they're not locked out of being able to come back. But I do think it puts a lot more pressure on these coaches, because these coaches are having to go out and recruit players and build their team. And once a guy says, I'm going to declare for the NBA draft, it really kind of throws a wrench in there. But you know what? They get paid a lot of money. I guess they'll just have to deal with it.
Well, you're right about that. But there's no pressure on John Calipari. And the reason I say that is because he knows he's going to get the best next crop year in and year out. So if he has one and dones, he knows that he's going to be able to get the next best group that's coming out of high school to fill his team for the next year. And those guys may be one and dones as well. So, but for people like Bruce Pearl and Avery Johnson, yeah, it's going to be difficult, because they're going to have to find that guy to help build that program.
Well, Jeff, one more thing. Do you think the one and done is hurting the college game more or the NBA game more?
I think the run has hurt both games more,
I
to be
agree.
honest with you, Scott, because it hurts college basketball because those would be better players in year 2, 3, and 4, where in the NBA, it hurts the NBA because they're not ready to play at NBA level in year 1 or even 2 for that matter.
I think that's what the NBA and NCAA may be coming together on this, saying, look, neither one of us are benefiting from this. I mean, we're getting guys that are underdeveloped, and we're losing guys that are exciting for the game in college. So I think both of them need to sit down at the table and realize that something like this needs to be done. I think this is the first step in the right direction.
Oh, there's no question. And I look at on the baseball side too, guys, and I know you're up against a break. I look on the baseball side. They had the draft right in the middle of the World Series. That's the craziest thing I've ever seen. Why don't you wait till a couple weeks after the College World Series and then have your draft?
Exactly. I mean, I think it's timing. I mean, you look at the NHL and the NBA playoffs, they had them scheduled where a Stanley Cup game would not be on the same night as an NBA Finals game. And I thought that was smart because you don't want those two major bodies competing against one another. I mean, I have no desire to watch hockey, don't watch it at all, but I actually flipped over and watched a few, minutes of Stanley Cup games, whereas I wouldn't have watched a minute of it if it would have been in conflict with one of the NBA final games.
Yeah, I agree with you.
It's a timing thing. It's a timing thing.
I was joking around this morning. I tweeted, it always kills me, and I know we're in a football world, but people, 70 days left of football. I calculated it up. There's 138 days, guys, until Auburn tips off against UAB.
138 days till they tip. Hey, look, that's going to be fun. I think that was a great move on Bruce Pearl's part and UAB's part. That'll be fun.
Should have been done a long time ago.
I agree with you. Jeff, we appreciate it, brother. Enjoy your weekend.
Yep, y'all too. Have a good day, man.
Thanks so much, and we appreciate your phone call. Up against the break, we come back, we'll continue this discussion. Stay tuned. More of the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR's right after this.
Come back to you in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill. We are here at JR's until noon today. We'd love for you to come up here and join us. Make it part of your plans. JR Sports Bar and Grill, the best food around, a variety of menu choices to choose from. Kids eat off the kids menu for $3.99. A great meal. I'm telling you, the tournaments that are going on, we have all-star tournaments going on in Out City today. So make sure you come out to JR Sports Bar and Grill and have some great food between games, after games, whenever. A little bit of a chance of rain today, actually a little bit more than a little bit. I think it's a 60 or 70% chance, but don't cancel your outdoor plans. Just kind of keep that weather out handy and make sure you're staying safe out there. But we'd love to hear from you, 256-234-6221. It's been a great first hour. Didn't get started off real good, the first part of the show, but this has really turned into something really, really good. A couple of really good discussions today on the program, and never thought – that's the thing about it, Scott. You never know what direction we're going to go in up here. We have our layout of what we want to cover. Never anywhere on here was I plan on covering the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
But
that's what I love about this show. It gives you the opportunity to talk about a vast amount of subjects. And again, we talked about Stanley Cup and NCAA Finals, World Series. So we've covered a lot of things right now. But I'm a little interested to see where the rest of the show is going to go.
Well, and that'll be determined on whoever's listening out there. If they want to add something, I just want to throw out a note. U.S. women advanced to the semifinals. They win 1-0 over China last night. And we're down a couple of their top players. So, Scott, can this team Hope Solo is pretty staunch back there at goalkeeper, pretty much a wall, not allowing anything. Haven't really had many shots on goal in the last few games for her to defend. But they got Germany next in the semifinals. What's your thoughts on the U.S. women's opportunity to win the World Cup?
Well, Germany will definitely be the toughest opponent
Germany
that they've had so far.
With France
I mean, you're looking at the number 1 team. France was number 3, so it was going to be a tough draw there either way. But the way that Hope Solo has been playing, kind of similar way Timmy Howard was during the World Cup run for the men's side. I think I saw this morning she got close to maybe like 240 something minutes of shutout soccer, or shutout goalkeeping. So again, in soccer, it's mainly about 2 things: your goalkeeper and your ability to score. And so the forwards for the U.S. soccer team has been doing pretty well, and hopefully that can continue. Alex Morgan is one of my favorite athletes out right now, for a lot of different reasons. But I mean, she's very talented, and so this team, it took a while for them to kind of gel because they haven't been playing their best soccer really. If you've been following them compared to how they played in some of the exhibition games, but I think this will be a good opportunity for them. And again, it's one and done at this point, so there's nothing you can do but try to go ahead and win.
Yeah, you did a great job of trying to divert the real reason why Alex Morgan is your favorite player. You said athlete right now of all time?
No.
I'm sorry. I just thought I'd throw that in there. But anyway, 256-234-6221. If you have a crush on Alex Morgan, you call in and tell us too. Scott just did. But anyway, we'd love to hear from you out there. The women's program has obviously already won a World Cup in the past. They have proven themselves and etched themselves up there at the top as one of the top, programs in the world, soccer programs. I like our chances, especially if you get by Germany.
Well, I mean, we do have Hope Solo is the best goalkeeper in the world, and so if it comes down to that, her ability to keep goals from going in the back of the net, I think will ultimately be their way to succeed. But again, Germany is physical; they play very good up front, and they're very good defensively. So it's going to be tough for the scorers for the U.S. to be able to get the balls in the net. But I look for them to go ahead and advance and hopefully make it to the World Cup final.
Yeah, that'd be great, and we'd love to see that happen. And again, a smorgasbord of things that we've discussed on here on the program today. The NBA draft, as Coach Hines called in and talked about a little bit. We'll talk about that here in just a little bit with Kentucky and what they were able to do. And the draft, Scott. Before we dive into the draft, the number 4 pick was the one that drew all the attention in the draft. Kristaps Porzingis from Latvia, 7'2", 230 pounds, a wiry guy, got booed slap out of the building at Barclays Center Feel sorry for a guy like that. I mean, New York fans are harsh anyway. There were kids in the stands crying.
The little kid,
he's crying.
Yeah, he lost his mind, and now
he doesn't even know what he's crying about.
That's
he's sitting there crying because everybody's booing. And I saw on another program that that New York fans are already poised to boo so fast that he imitated. He said, with the fourth pick, New York Knicks select Michael Jordan. Most of the New York fans would have gone boo. Oh, wait a minute. That's really their. Didn't the Jets draft a kicker one year? What
and
they have
the draft is held in New York too. It was being held in New York.
Didn't they draft a kicker that time?
Yeah, the Jets. That's just a whole nother story in itself. But the Knicks would. I forget his name now. Porzingis. That I wish we'd have had the opportunity to get Jeff's thoughts on this. There was a lot of talk about this, and most Knicks fans are upset because he's still a developmental player. Most scouts thought that he's still a couple years away from being able to adjust to the NBA game. But if Kaminsky was a foreign player instead of being a national or a domestic player, would he have gone higher in the draft? And so a lot of that has been said about there's precedent being set that some of the athletes that we're getting from Europe, from the European leagues, are a little better than what you're seeing. And you get a little disrespect too from somebody like a Kaminsky because he stayed 3 or 4 years. And so those types of guys don't get the same hype as an Okafor or a Russell. Now, granted, they shouldn't because their talent level isn't the same. But I think that sometimes that, especially on the basketball side now, that if you stayed your whole 3 or 4 years, you don't get the same hype as those that, maybe do the one and done.
Do you have a blazer or a suit coat with 2 tanks on the inside? I'm just asking. Did he borrow that from you?
No, I'm pretty stylish, but that's something that's not in my wardrobe there. But I feel bad for him.
What about the suits? Let's shift gears a little bit. What in the world? Where do they go get some of these things?
Well,
tailors.
Well, this is supposed to be the big moment for them. So everybody wants to be styling and profiling. You go back to the days of Jalen Rose with the long jackets and the heavy pants.
What about the spiked shoes? Who was that with the spiked shoes?
I might have missed that part of it.
Well, you need to pull it up with all the things that you pull up on your iPad over here. You need to pull up the spiked shoes, and I want you to we'll go to break. When we come back, I want you to give me your thoughts on this. Would you wear? I'll just let you look at it. Don't tell me if you would wear these shoes. I think you would, Scott. I've seen some of the things that you've worn, but I can see you wearing these. So we'll take a break. Stay tuned. More of the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR's right after this.
What?
Lunch doesn't have to be the same as food.
Welcome back to the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill. Brett Pritchard and Scott Hardy here with you. Thank goodness for 50 more minutes here at JR Sports Bar and Grill. And we'd love for you to come on out and get some great food or smell some of this crab boil that I did just a minute ago and get your sinuses cleared out. Whatever you would like to do, we'd love to have you up here at JR Sports Bar and Grill. But Scott, I've had you given an opportunity to take a look at the latest pair of shoes that you'll be I guess going out looking for now that you've seen them. What's your thoughts on that? I mean, this is my point. This is what I'm talking about here. What's he doing?
Okay, Kelly Oubre Jr. from Kansas, 15th overall pick in the draft by the Wizards. And do yourself a favor and Google these shoes that he has on. They're spiked shoes. I don't even know really what else to call them. They look like diamond studs just coming out. But
that's a weapon.
Which is what I was about to say.
Now, let me say, now, George Bush had that shoe thrown at him back at that press conference.
I think they would have rather had one of those.
If somebody had thrown that one, there would have been some damage done. So,
but again, this is their moment. It's kind of like for the draft, whatever sport, especially in basketball and football, it is about the attire and what you're going to have on. I think you're judged more harshly by the Twitter world, I think, on the NBA side and what you're going to wear. So Twitter obviously had a lot of fun with this, just Googling. I saw some of the images that came out about it. But, again, this is their opportunity to kind of have some fun and highlight themselves. And, again, you go top 15, so that means that you were the top 15 best player available to be drafted. So congratulations to him. But
you can get away with it.
I don't know what happened.
And you get away with that. Anyway, draft, Karl Anthony Towns goes first. D'Angelo Russell second to the Lakers. A lot of people thought Okafor might even be the number one pick. He drops all the way down to 3 with the 76ers. The Knicks were sure hoping that Jahlil Okafor was going to be around. At least their fans were. And he was not. So they take Kristaps Porzingis, and he gets booed out of the building.
Carmelo booed him as well. Now, he comes out today and he says, I think we got to steal in the draft in Porzingis, but negative.
Well, what's he going to boo, and then he's going to come out and say he's got to steal in the draft? What about also a note for you on the Bulls as they picked up Bobby Portis? Do you remember the tweet Bobby Portis had out several years ago about D Rose?
Yeah, and I mean the Lakers having to deal with the same thing. The guy, his name escapes me now. One of their later in the first round picks, he tweeted out something about when Kobe was going to Colorado or going to Denver. He said, I hope he doesn't rape anybody, and he had the rapist hashtag. So that's going to be an interesting conversation.
Who was this now?
The Lakers. It was their second pick in the first round, maybe the 19th or 27th.
Second? You talking about this year?
Yes, it was their pick in the draft. Their second pick in the draft said something, tweeted
Larry
something.
Nance.
I'm going to have to check. I apologize for not knowing the name. It escapes me now, but he basically said something about Kobe. Similar.
Well, he's the second pick for the Lakers. It's Larry Nance.
Okay, well, that's who it is.
From Wyoming?
Yeah, so he had to apologize for
basically
basically
Why do people
saying,
do stuff like that?
But again, I mean, you can't say stuff like that. But if you're, 16-year-old kid, there's no telling what he might even have been younger than that at that point. This was like 2000, maybe 11 or 12. So, I mean, have some time to grow. But on the Bull side, he handled it the best way possible. He was like, pal, D Rose, where's your favorite donuts? I got you taken care of. He said, I apologize. I was an immature kid. And that's the best way to do something like that. But in the instance of with the Lakers and Kobe and how they're going to have to handle things, I think that's going to be an interesting conversation whenever they do decide to speak with each other.
256-234-6221 to be part of the program. I mean, that's what you deal with social media now. You go to Twitter, you go to Facebook, you put stuff out there, and then you back off and you apologize. And I don't care how old you are, Scott. I mean, how many times do people have to make dumb mistakes before they realize I don't need to say that or need to do that? That's what before social media you could think something or say something between me and you, and it not spread like wildfire. But I understand Bobby Portis. I mean, and I don't think Derrick Rose is going to be mad about that. But some of the stuff that gets said, and it was Larry Nance Jr., right? That was him. That's bad.
That's very bad. I mean, and that's only 2 years ago. So, I mean, he's 18, he's 16, 17 years old at that point. So I think I would know not to do it. And Herm Edwards has the best advice for all these NFL players and rookies that come in, and supposedly he says, don't press in. And so that's basically what you're having to learn now. Social media, a lot of things that happen actually now too, the outcry from stuff is because of media coverage, especially on the online presence. So let that sink in a little bit. But I don't know. I don't think it's that big a deal. Now, Larry Nance definitely, but on the Chicago Bulls side, I don't think it's that big a deal.
256-234-6221. To be part of the program, and again, some interesting stuff there. We'll go on down through there. Willie Cauley-Stein goes 6 to the Kings. You flip on down. The Hornets pick up Frank Kaminsky from Wisconsin, obviously. Justice Winslow, I thought, had a great championship game from Duke. Went 10th to the Heat. Kentucky, 2 players back-to-back, 12 and 13. Jazz pick up Trey Lyles, and Devin Booker goes 13. I've even had somebody – I've seen some shows say that maybe Devin Booker the best shooter in the draft, and there's another kid, and I can't remember what school he's from, that they feel like may be also the best shooter. And then a lot of people are starting to look at that more now, especially the way Steph Curry played this year and what a pure shot he has and how big of a difference he can make. So you flip on down and look at the rest. LSU, Jarrell Martin from the Grizzlies at 25. Obviously, we just talked about 22, Bobby Portis at Arkansas getting selected. The SEC, several players in that first round, majority of them coming from Kentucky.
Yeah, and again, Kentucky is the premier program in the country, but that's not to say that just because you don't go to Kentucky. I mean, Okafor would have been the same player had he gone to Kentucky, and Towns would have been the same player if he goes to Duke. I think that part gets a little inflated a little bit when you put so much credence into these coaches and whatnot. But again, these are some quality players, and although I do agree with the one and done, I think you should have the opportunity to leave anytime you want to. Those types of players can handle it. You have some of your second-tier players that are leaving early, and that is what's hurting the game and watering down some of the NBA game as well.
Yeah, 256-234-6221 to be part of the program. Scott, we'll take a break. When we come back, talk about Kevin Love opting out, talking about, LeBron James. It's rumored out there that he's kicking. I mean, if he leaves this time.
I got some thoughts.
Okay, well, that's what I'm saying. I thought you would. So we'll come back. We'll discuss. Stay tuned. Well, the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR is right after this.
Guaranteed lowest price. Vice.
Vice.
If you're looking for the best chicken fingers or wings in town, then look no further than JR Sports Bar and Grill in Alex City. Order my favorite.
Negative.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill. Brett Pritchard and Scott Hardy here with you till noon. We'd love to hear from you about 35 more minutes or so. 256-234-6221. The Auburn Jumbotron getting a lot of publicity here over the week. People really starting to realize now that it's taking shape down there how big this board's going to be, Scott.
Yeah, and again, we were talking a little bit before the show about would you rather have an upgrade of this type or adding more seats? And I'm with you. This enhances the game experience for the for the fans that are already coming there. And realistically speaking, Auburn sometimes struggles to fill up to capacity. So I think this is just something that, again, enhances it and it puts us on top of everyone else. And again, I'd like to see some more seats added, but I think this is going to be outstanding for that first game whenever we have the opportunity at home.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very fun to see, unless you're a season ticket holder of 20 years and it's directly above you if you're sitting over there.
True.
I mean, that, you know that's got to make some people. I mean, there's not a perfect place to put that for everybody to be happy, but that would suck. I'd just throw that out there for your seats to be on that side for 20-something years and that Jumbotron, and it's to your back. You don't really get to see it. But anyway, you can just have to crane your neck, I guess, would be the only thing I can tell you. Go back to LeBron James. Kevin Love, Cleveland Cavaliers, Kevin Love's opted out final year. And J.R. Smith opted out. I mean, is LeBron next? I mean, there's nothing been certain. I mean, what would happen if he moves again? What's your thoughts? You're a big LeBron James fan. What happens if he moves this time?
LeBron, I wouldn't be surprised if LeBron does leave at some point. It won't be this season, and he was smart to sign
a short. He just tweeted out.
He's opting out, but I think it's smart on his part. He wants to see. He has no problem leaving, which is why he signed the short-term deal instead of doing something long. But he's wanting to see what type of roster they're going to assemble around him. I think with Kevin Love being out, you saw the emergence of a Tristan Thompson, so he's not. LeBron has come out and says, well, he's not going to lobby for Kevin Love to come back. And I think it's probably a better fit for Kevin Love to go ahead and leave.
Did Kevin Love and him not get along? I'm starting to sense that there wasn't any love lost there.
No pun intended. Yeah, but I think that Kevin Love's style of game doesn't necessarily fit as well with LeBron's. Now, granted, if he were to go to an LA, I'm a really big Kevin Love fan. I mean, anybody that can average 26 and 12, I'm big fan of yours, but his style of play and how LeBron plays wasn't that great. But you saw somebody like a Kyrie definitely emerge as a big-time player playing with LeBron James. So ultimately, I think LeBron does stay. But 2 years from now, when he really can do it,
ashes.
I
mean, it would be burnt to ashes.
He already delivered.
He would never be able to come back.
That's the problem. I don't think he wants to do that. I think there's probably outside of.
I mean, has he not learned as a professional at his age now? I mean, with the dramatic leave and now the comeback and, him being where he is and everything that he said in the past about now, I'm here to, to do what I've got to do to help this city. And for him to pack up and leave 12 months later would be pretty bad.
The biggest thing in Cleveland's favor is the fact that LeBron is head coach, GM, he's running that show there. So for LeBron's sake, he won't have that much power anywhere else that he goes. Cleveland, he has more just because that's his hometown and that was the team that drafted him initially. So he has more power there than he would somewhere else, which is why he left Miami the first time. Well, when he left Miami was because he and Pat Riley didn't necessarily see eye to eye as well. So Dwayne Wade having those same conversations with Pat Riley. There's a lot of talk that the Lakers there's mutual interest there as well as with the Cavs. So I think LeBron would like to have D Wade back with him because there's a certain type of player. You have to be a certain type of player to play with LeBron, and he can elevate anybody's play. But if you're somebody like Kevin Love who doesn't really play that well without the ball. You don't play that well with LeBron. But ultimately, I think that LeBron stays in Cleveland. He's just trying to see what type of roster is assembled, and I think they did pretty well.
Is David Blatt
next?
Did he catch unfair criticism though, Scott? I mean, look. I mean, when you were supposed to lose, well, it's your fault. I don't agree with that. And
he kind of Larry Cokered his way to a finals appearance because there was so much. I mean, not that when you have LeBron, I think that's the same thing.
Well, that's my point. I mean, I don't think you could have stuck anybody in there, and then they're gonna point the finger and blame him for losing the. It's not his fault.
But he made some silly coaching decisions, and from what you're saying though too. LeBron used him for that. When they're doing well, it was, the play of LeBron was doing it. If they're not playing well, then, the coaching scheme isn't that great. So, which is why LeBron, a lot of people in his camp are saying he likes having him around because that gives him somebody that he can kick around to the point to where he doesn't have to worry about being the mainstay for the blame. But again, I think that somebody I would love to see a Mark Jackson be the coach of the Cavs and somebody like that elevate with LeBron. But I don't have a problem with David Blatt. He's obviously prestigious coach worldwide, top 5 coach of all time on the Europe side. So I think his pedigree speaks for itself, but it took him a little bit longer to adjust than what I think LeBron was accustomed to.
256-234-6221 to be part of the program. I just think that it's almost a lose-lose situation for him in a situation. When you take on that team and they won 2 ball games. That's 2 more than a lot of people felt like they would win. They felt like Golden State would sweep that series when they actually were put in a position where they could have gone up 3-1. How much, I guess, not criticism, but how much what would David Blatt have received if Cleveland would have won that series? How much praise, how much credit would have been given to David Blatt if they would have won that series?
It would have gone to LeBron.
I mean, it wouldn't have hurt his name.
I mean,
but they lose, it's his fault. It was his fault. And, I'll say this for LeBron James, and, I reversed my stance a couple weeks ago on him. I feel like he got that team there and a situation kind of on his back where nobody else had any help. But, I mean, when the chips were down, he was quick to, him and Kevin Love obviously didn't, he's not going to go to bat for him to try to come back and all that. But he was quick to say, well, I lost 3 All-Stars off this team. When they lost the series, he goes, how many other people are going to do that? So he uses things to his advantage, just like anybody would. But he makes sure to let everybody know that, hey, I did all I could do, and I also lost 3 All-Stars. Even though when he's not going to go to bat for Kevin Love, he wants him gone.
He might be the most powerful athlete in the world right now, from a position of being able to manipulate situations. I don't think anybody
he's good
else,
at what he does.
Yeah, and I mean his brand is stronger than ever. And the fact what helps him though, which is why he has as much power as he has, one, his talent supersedes everyone else's, but the fact that his off the field performance is just the same. As his reputation is impeccable and he doesn't get in any trouble. Don't see him in the headlines for anything negative. But on the basketball court, there's nobody else in the world right now that I would want to have on my team than LeBron. So you have to suck it up and just deal with it if that's a superstar player.
I'm going to throw one more at you. What's worse for LeBron next year, not getting to the finals or losing another one? Which one's worse?
I'm of the opinion.
I mean, I don't think he gets anything other than him by winning. I don't think the credit goes anywhere unless he can win. I don't think he'll get out of that shadow. So which one of the two's worse?
Well, listen, I've lost 4 fantasy football championship games. Hold on. In 6 years, and I've made it to the finals 4 times and never won it. And so I get a lot of criticism.
Are we seriously consider comparing fantasy football here?
But I get talked about by my friends I talk about them for not even making it there. So using that same analogy,
Bills.
I'm the Buffalo Bills. So I would rather be the Buffalo Bills than the team that didn't make the playoffs. I mean, I'd rather there's something that
I understand. I get that now. There's an argument there. He's the best player in the world. He is.
He can't afford to have 5 final losses on his team.
Well, I mean, which one's worse, though? Is he looked at as a bigger failure for not getting there or getting there and losing again? Which one's worse? I mean, you got to pick.
I think it's worse to not make the finals at all. I mean, because if you're not there, that means
so
you don't have an opportunity to win.
He won't catch as much criticism if he goes to the finals and loses as if he didn't make the playoffs at all. I mean, and make the finals at all.
Yeah, because then if you're the greatest player in the world, then a finals appearance should just be understood. I mean,
but it's not. I mean, the Buffalo Bills made 4 Super Bowls, and everybody looks at them as a losing organization. Whereas I know what you're saying. I don't agree with it. The Bills did something winning 4 AFC championships, but when you bring up Buffalo Bills, what do you think of? 4 Super Bowl
Yeah,
losses.
I mean,
what are they going to start bringing up? So I disagree. I think if he doesn't make the finals, he doesn't catch as much flack because they're not notching that on the record book, saying, well, he didn't make it, and it's too much. The focus is going to be on the 2 teams that's in the finals. He makes it again and loses. He's 2 out of what? 5? What is it?
That'd be
2 out of 7.
7. Yeah, you're going 6 times, 5 in a row.
He's 2 and 4. So I mean, I don't know.
I think ultimately,
I don't think he can afford to do it again.
He can't afford to have another final loss. I will say that. Now, granted, you've had players like
so.
Jerry West
What team do you think Cleveland gives him the best opportunity? Early odds with Kevin Love and Kyrie Irving and J.R. Smith being there, they were the odds-on favorite next year to win the NBA championship. Now that all that's going away, you think this Cleveland team is going to be good enough to go back and even make the finals?
I think that the Bulls not defeating them this season was the indication to me that no matter where LeBron's playing, he will never go to the West, obviously, because I think the competition is too tough for him to get out of the West consistently. He'll stay in the East, and all he needs really is a couple of perimeter players and a low post guy that he can dump the ball off to take some pressure off of him. I think that if Kevin Love and Kyrie are healthy, I would say that the Cavs probably win that series in 7. Now, I thought Golden State was the better team, but LeBron James is the best player. So in basketball, I usually would go with the better player. And the way LeBron manned his way from he was up 2-1. That's the other part about this too, Brett. He was up 2-1 in Game 4 in Cleveland. If they win that game, they're up 3-1, and then you are having a different conversation. It's not the 4th finals loss on his record or his resume.
Now he's 3-3.
Now he's 3-3. So again, there's so much that can happen. But
he could easily be 1-5.
He could be, and I know people say the Spurs gift wrapped that one to him, which I guess ultimately they did. But I mean, for anybody to make it to a championship appearance 5 years in a row, it's pretty impressive to me.
I'm not going to argue that point. They pick up Tyus Jones from Duke and the 24th pick, and then he was traded to Minnesota. So who did the Cavs pick up in this draft to help them? Did they pick up anybody?
Tyus Jones.
But he got traded. Didn't he get traded to Minnesota?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
He got traded. Yeah, Tyus Jones got traded to Minnesota.
And they don't have a first-round pick next year, if I'm not mistaken, because that Timberwolves pick, that should have been their pick. The Timberwolves pick that they had should have been the Cavs pick, actually. So that would have been something you give up Kevin Love for the pick. And you're looking at it now, Wiggins actually, I mean, he wins Rookie of the Year. He had a pretty decent season. So I think that would have been a better fit for them. But him and LeBron are too similar of players, and I don't think it would have worked chemistry-wise. But I thought that he was a better fit for them than Kevin Love was.
So round 2, pick 23. In round 2, they get Sir Dominic Pointer, 6'6", 196 pounds, shooting forward from St. Joseph. But, I mean,
I think it's a free agency game for them. They're going to have to play the free agency game and just see what happens.
They did not pick up somebody that's going to be an immediate impact person to come in and help that team get back to the finals, in my opinion.
No, and I agree with that. And right now, they don't have a team really at all. Right, the only person that of significance that's under contract right now is Kyrie Irving. LeBron's about to opt out.
Going to bring Sean Marion off the bench, waiting on them.
I was waiting to see why they never did that. That was something too. David Blatt had some very expensive. You had Perkins. You had Miller did get some time there toward the end, but Marion, those are some guys that
did he ever take his shooting shirt off?
Never. Those two didn't even sniff the end of the field.
I caught a glimpse of Sean Marion. I said, did he buy a ticket or is he on the team? I mean, he had the shooting shirt. I'm like, surely you can get 2 or 3 minutes out of him. He's not that old, is he?
No, I mean, and again, that series really boiled down to the fact that they just wore him down at the very end. And there's only so much you can do if you're that type of player. But again, I feel sorry going back to David Blatt, though. I do feel sorry for him because I do think that he has taken some unfair criticism for the development of the team. But
it's hard to feel sorry for a guy that makes that much money. I mean, I mean, in the scheme of things. I mean, I know you get put in a situation, but he knew what he was going into. Hey, he's not hurt.
Well, the Cavs, first off, they hired him before LeBron decided to come back. So I think that if you're the Cavs, I would have made sure that LeBron, if he decided to come, that we hired who he wanted to come. And that was never a LeBron decision, which I think will seal his fate ultimately.
The 16 European championships that David Blatt won, do they not count for anything?
Well, it's kind of like winning in the Big 12 and then winning in the SEC, I think.
Okay. All right. That's a fair comparison. Stay tuned. More of the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR's right after this.
Come back to you in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill. Brett Pritchard and Scott Hardy here with you for about 15 more minutes. We'd love to hear from you, and had some great phone calls here earlier in the show. Talked about a lot of interesting stuff. Scott, your take on the College World Series. Vanderbilt wins game 1, can't win game 2 or 3, and they fall, tried to defend that title. Virginia kind of gets revenge on what they did. So what's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think baseball is the hardest of any of the sports to repeat as champion. There's so much that has to go into it, and there's so many games that have to be played. So hats off to Vandy for being able to even make it that far again and being able to have the opportunity to defend their title, and the SEC showing their dominance on being able to make it there again. 6 teams, I think, or 5 make the final 8 there. And so, again, you could have had an all-SEC final. But pitching, again, is what's going to win baseball games. And Virginia came through strong the second and third games there. Vanderbilt was unable to keep their momentum going. You hate to see that happen. But Cohen definitely has things going there, probably the best coach in college baseball. So I'll see that being a return for them very soon.
Yeah, I do too. And, just a lot of great teams in the SEC. That conference just keeps getting stronger. So what's your take on Auburn and Alabama's chances? I mean, with their current situation, with the 2 coaches that they have in place, I mean, you can say the pressure's on, but are they truly at a disadvantage because of the way the state's aligned and the way the things are done as far as, the legislature and the scholarship opportunities and things like that?
Well, I think somewhat, but there's so much talent in the state of Alabama from a baseball perspective. I don't want people to think that there is a lot of talent on the baseball side. Locally, you see it, Birmingham, Mobile, your metropolitan areas, there's a lot of talent there. And as an Auburn fan, I know I'm in the minority on this side, but I really like Sonny Galloway, and I know that he doesn't really represent what an Auburn man is to a lot of people's opinions, but he's somebody who's hard-nosed and he can win. And I think ultimately if you give him the time to do so, I mean, year 2 he makes a regional. Next year it could be an opportunity. We were 3 games away from being able to host a regional. So I think that there's an opportunity for Auburn to be better going forward. Once he gets some of his players in, the JUCO route is always a way to get some extra talent pretty quickly as well. So I think Galloway, given some time, can get it going. But if he starts to lose, he's at a bigger disadvantage than Alabama's situation, just based on the fact that he kind of rubs people the wrong way.
Yeah, he does. And, we'll see. I mean, one more year. He did improve on what he did last year. So I think that has to carry some weight, and you have to see kind of how that plays out. But, you're going to have to start seeing some results. You're going to have to start seeing that side of things for both Alabama and Auburn build up. I mean, you're just going to have to. Yeah. I mean, it's too good of programs in the past to both of them not be where they need to be in the scheme of things nationally.
And I think you make a good point about that. It's not like there isn't a precedent for Auburn and Alabama being successful in baseball. There have been lots of good baseball teams, and you came through at a perfect time. Since I've been following Auburn baseball, really haven't had the same teams that you've had, and so you were there during the Timmy Hudson days. But, I mean, Auburn has the chance to do what Mitch Gastard has to get things going on the Alabama side. So we'll just see what happens. But I think Alabama probably has more pressure on their coaching staff than what Auburn has right now.
Absolutely. 256-234-6221 to be part of the program. Men's College World Series versus the Women's College World Series. Here's the telltale. We talked about this yesterday on Saturday on Sports Call. Michigan, Florida, game 1 had 1.4 million viewers. Vanderbilt, Virginia had 1.2 million. Game 2, Michigan, Florida, 1.8. Vandy, Virginia, 1.3. And then Michigan, Florida, game 3, 2.2, almost 2.3 million. Vandy, Virginia, 1.6. I mean, right now, the women's game's just a little bit more interesting, more exciting overall from a nation's perspective than college baseball. I mean, college baseball is going to have to do something, Scott.
Well, the problem is, and again, you can always point back to this, but the inability to score runs is going to keep college baseball from being able to get the average viewer or average person to watch it, average fan to watch it. You saw with the softball side, the SEC network, and I can just speak from the SEC's perspective, so much was gained from a popularity standpoint on the softball side because they were showing these games. And when you're having 12 to 11 games or 10 to 8 games consistently on a night-to-night basis, even if you're not familiar with the names or know so much about the sport, when you have something that's scoring, that's going to attract your average viewer, which ultimately is what you're trying to do as a station that's carrying the games. But from the baseball side, the pitching isn't that great, even though the runs are down. It's just people's ability to hit the long ball isn't there, and especially playing in that big of a stadium, the run's going to be down playing in the World Series.
Absolutely. Did have more home runs this year than they had in the last couple of years, so they did change the ball. I think that did have some impact, but the bats are still really, really dead as far as college baseball is concerned. So need to look at
I like Gorilla Ball, though, honestly. I mean, I know that you had to do something about it, but, I mean, I don't have a problem with giving up those home runs or seeing, 8 to 7 baseball scores on a nightly basis.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, I think that's what makes – I mean, in this day and age of trying to draw in, fans outside of the purists from your game, I think that helps. I mean, it helps draw those in, don't you think?
Yeah, and that's the word I was looking for. Your purists of the game, they probably do like these 3-2 games, 1-0 games, game 1, Vandy versus Virginia. I think you like that. And I do like those types of games as well because I'm appreciative of a good pitching performance. But if you're a sport that's striving to be able to get more viewership, then you have to figure out a way to get more people to watch. And the best way to do so is being able to enhance the game from an offensive standpoint.
256-234-6221 to be part of the program. We'll take a break when we come back. Kind of something that Andy and I were going to talk about yesterday on Sports Call. Didn't get a chance to. I had a lot of calls on that side, a lot of different things that we cover. We come back, kind of talk about the blueprint for SEC championship. Stay tuned. More of the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR's right after this.
Make sure your mowers and blowers are in tip-top shape
Mowers
this
and
fall.
blowers.
CTE Small Engines has the largest selection of parts in East Alabama. We carry multiple lines such as Husqvarna, Echo, Kawasaki, and much more. Looking for something and can't find it? Call us at 334-705-0055 or visit our website at ctesmallengines.com. We repair and detail equipment and are the exclusive store for Kimco scooters. Visit our store at 2419 Pritchard Road in Opelika or online at ctesmallengines.com.
Hey, Sarah, I'm going to Zach.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill. Final segment here on the show. It's been a great show. I'd love to hear from you out there. One final opportunity for you to get your phone calls in. Remember, kids eat off the kids menu for $3.99. So that's a great deal. And all-star teams in town today in Alex City playing in the state tournament. So we'd love for you to bring your team out here to JR Sports Bar and Grill and let them take care of you out there. Blueprint for winning an SEC championship, Scott, was laid out. And you look at it all the way across the board, coaching experience, quarterback yards, touchdowns, rushing defense, number of big wins. That means 21 points or more. So you look at the teams over the past since 2008, since Florida, Alabama, Auburn, LSU been involved in these games. You look at the average number of NFL draft picks per team is 5.6. Average number of coaching experience years 10.9. Quarterback yards and touchdowns average 2,875 yards, 26 touchdowns. Rushing ranks 14th nationally. Defense ranks 25th nationally. And number of big wins, that's 21 points or more. That's 7.1 over that course. So
wait a minute. So the teams that won that, so 7.1 games per year they won.
Yeah,
20, good Lord.
That's the blueprint there. So that's pretty eye opening, isn't it? That's a kind of a blueprint, and not necessarily. I mean, there's outliers out there, but over the past since 08 through 14 for the SEC. First thing that stands out to me is you got to have you some NFL players. You got to have you some guys that can go. Alabama had 7 NFL draft picks in 14. Auburn had 4 in 13. Alabama had 9 in 12. LSU had 5 in 11. Auburn had 4 in 10. Alabama had 7 in 9 and 3 for Florida in 08. And you look at that. Alabama really, with Nick Saban, really knocked that coaching year experience thing up with 14 years and 17 and 19 for Nick Saban. Auburn really didn't help that very much. 4 years in 10, 2 years in 13. That's Gus Malzahn getting it there in year 2. So, but for the most part, I mean, have that average of about 10 years worth of coaching under your belt kind of helps kind of get things going,
I think that in the SEC in particular, I think the biggest thing, or in college football rather, the thing that matters the most is coaching. And then after that, I would say quarterback play, and then thirdly, being able to stop the run. So those are 3 of the 5 or 6 things that was listed as a blueprint. But I think that you see that for all successful teams, whether it be collegiately, high school, whatever level of football, that you have to have a good coach, great quarterback play, and the ability to stop the run. If you have those 3 things or those 3 components, then you're setting yourself up well to be successful for the long haul.
Absolutely. It kind of gives you the little telltale there. It's amazing that you have that kind of laid out, and it's kind of been the blueprint across the board for all those teams that have made it through there. So interesting stuff there. We move into the final part of the show. We didn't bring this up last week because it really hadn't happened yet, but Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, his son, and getting in an altercation with the assistant coach, strength and conditioning coach. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I don't know. I don't know if really I would want to have the parents of my players there anyway. Obviously, that's part of the main reason behind him getting recruited there, even though I think Newhouser was the one who actually recruited him there. But I don't think it's that big a deal. Now, something's going to come up about it as well, but I think from a coaching standpoint, I'd say all days you got to just get all the
Can UCLA handle having Snoop Dogg's son and P. Diddy's son on the team?
I mean,
what are we doing?
But that's part of the lure, though, for what UCLA is doing, and Moore is doing a great job with that. Is there has to be some way. USC is considered the cool school to go to, and so there has to be some way to combat that. And so when you start getting celebrity-type, high-profile guys and their children or their sons going to your school to play
how big
sports,
of a coup was that for UCLA to get Snoop Dogg's son?
I think that was probably bigger than getting Diddy's son. I mean, from a people love
because
Diddy,
I mean, all he did was wear USC stuff all the time.
Yeah. And I mean, that's really the thing. And LA is USC's football, or it's a USC town. And so to see UCLA kind of starting to make a little push there, I think it's cool what they're trying to do. But again, if I'm the coach of that team, this is just something else too that Moore has to deal with too. As the program's trying to be a contender with Hundley gone, they actually have to try to replace him at quarterback. So I don't know. I thought that they'd be a trendy pick had he returned, but obviously he didn't. But we'll see what happens there. But that's just a crazy story all the way around.
Just getting started, really, as we head toward the college football season. 9 Saturdays away from college football, and just kind of crazy to think that we're that close. And the way things are shaping up for Auburn and Alabama, going to be another fun season for people here in this state. A lot of expectations around both programs. Once again, as always, I don't think anybody's shocked by that. There's just a lot of high expectations. Going to be year in and year out with these teams. Jeremy Johnson, pretty much it's a rare situation for Auburn to be sitting here in June knowing who their quarterback is going to be. I mean, really since Brandon Cox, we haven't entered the season knowing who our quarterback was going to be, even when Cam Newton came on board. After A-Day and heading into summer, they weren't ready to give him the reins even after that, Scott, and really nobody knew who he was and all that. But so some consistency, that's got to give Auburn a little bit more of a boost than they've had in the past.
I think that's why they've gotten so much attention here, a lot of preseason hype and accolades, is the fact that Auburn or pundits know that what you can do with this type of offense. I saw what Nick Marshall was able to do. Even going back to Chris Todd, saw what he was able to do. So I think having a combination of a great passer and the ability to somebody who's mobile, I don't think that Auburn's had this type of quarterback ever. As great as Cam was, I think that from a passing perspective, Jeremy could be a little bit better, and that's a little scary to see.
Yeah, I definitely think so. And, not a cut on Nick Marshall, but definitely an increase.
I love Nick Marshall too, by the way. I mean, I think the outside of Cam, he's probably my favorite quarterback we've had. And I love Nick Marshall because he didn't let his lack of ability of being able to throw the ball to be successful.
Yeah, he
and
improvised.
So that, again, it just lets you know what you have in Gus Malzahn as the offensive play caller, because he puts his guys in the best condition to win or position to win. And I think that this could be the season too where you see Rhett Lashley too kind of emerge as being one of the top offensive guys, and maybe he moves on too. You want to keep him as long as possible, but I think this year allows him to maybe get a different position.
That's going to wrap it up here from JR Sports Bar and Grill. Again, we've had a great show. Great times up here. Make JR Sports Bar and Grill part of your lunch and dinner plans tonight. State tournament going on here in Alex City. All the teens out there maybe tuning us in here on 97.5. Come on out to JR's Kids Eat Off the Kids menu for $3.99. We'll be back on the air Tuesday afternoon for the Lake Martin Sports Roundup Show. Scott Hardy will be back with you as the lead host there, and then we will lead it on into Sports Blitz Live Tuesday night. So for Mosley back in the studio, for Scott Hardy, I'm Brett Pritchard saying we've enjoyed it. We hope you have. See you next time, folks.